Sri Radha Krishna Bhogavna Sam Radha Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Guru Dwarka Dham ki jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai, all glory to God. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Grace SRIVAS, VANACARI, please accept my respectful obeisances. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I have not been able to send you the slides because the computer I want to use, my mother's computer I want to use to send, is not accepting my Wi-Fi in the house. I don't know why. I tried and tried, it's not accepting the Wi-Fi. It went on once and went off again. In fact, for the last 30 minutes or so, 45 minutes, I've been fighting with it. And I have to find somebody else's computer to use because my Mac will not accept any pen drive, any external drive, it won't accept. And so there's no way I can connect to send it. And so I took my dad's computer. I'm able to open, I've got the slides, but I cannot connect it to the Wi-Fi so that I can send it to you. I don't know why it's doing that. It connected for a while and just went off. And we try, it's not. So maybe after the class, yesterday I was very busy. The whole day I was busy till night, so I couldn't even look at it. But today, maybe after the Sunday class, I will maybe get some computer experts to come and help.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Okay. So what I'm going to do is that I have the slides on mother's computer. I can read.
Please kindly unmute, Prabhu.
The first lesson, we actually went over the first lesson yesterday. The first lesson is about the meaning and importance of Sri Upadeshamrita. That's the first lesson. And so we actually went over the first lesson by tackling the first verse. The first and second verse are the second lesson. So what I'll do is that I'll just go through quickly what I have as PowerPoint. Then we will go to the second lesson, which is what we started yesterday, the first verse. We'll take it from there. And then at the end of the day, I'll get some computer expert to come, today being Sunday, to come and help me so that I can get mother's computer connected to the Wi-Fi, then I can send the slides to you so that you can be sharing with the students. It makes things much easier. So today, again, we're going to do without the slides, but I'll be reading from here. And then it serves as a guide for a discussion. And then probably from next week, we can have this, we can share the slides. So we're going to begin. Om Gyana Timridasya Gyana Gyanashrakaya Chakshuram Litam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Bistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunastam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedant Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Iti Namini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Asri Tatmani Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namini Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvasai Sasunyavadi Pasachade Satarini Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gauratize Namaha Nityanando Vatutendur Vasuda Pranavalabhaha Janavir Jivita Patir Krishna Prema Pradaprabhu Padmavati Sutasrimam Sachirananda Purvajaha Bhavom Mata Jagatrata Rapta Gora Kalevaraha Advaitam Harina Dvaita Acharyam Bhaktisham Shanar Bhaktavattaram Itam Shamarvaita Acharya Ashraye Panchatattvamakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopi Takanta Radhakanta Namastate Taptakan Chana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Devi Krishna Mai Prokta Radhika Para Devata Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarvam Kanti Samohini Paraha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare So everyone is welcome to today's discussion. We looked at the importance of Upadeshamrita. So we'll just quickly go through that, what I have on the slides. So first we have the outline of Sri Upadeshamrita. First, the exalted position of Srila Rupa Goswami. So we talked about how exalted Rupa Goswami is. by mentioning how he is a replica of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Why we study the Sri Upadeshamrita and how to take shelter of Rupa Goswami. So we discussed that yesterday. That is the lesson 1. Who is Rupa Goswami? How was he empowered? What was his achievement? And what is the purpose of Rupa Goswami's achievements? That's what we discussed yesterday. Then in lesson 2, which is text 1 and 2, the text 1 is talking about the symptoms of a Goswami, the symptoms of a self-controlled Madhyama Adhikari. Then in lessons, in text 2, 3, and 4, it talks about the external behavior and devotional practices or niyamas in text 5, 6, 7, and 8. Rupa Goswami talks about the internal development and vision of a devotee. And then in text 9 and 10, Rupa Goswami talks about worshipable places and worshipable personalities. And then the last verse, which is text 11, Rupa Goswami talks about the highest place of spiritual significance, Radhakund. So this is how the whole nectar of instruction is structured. And so we would go through them in this order. So yesterday we went through the first part, which is the exalted position of Srila Rupa Goswami, the achievements of Srila Rupa Goswami, and the purpose of these achievements. Why was Rupa Goswami doing all these things? For the benefit of all of us. Why study Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita? In the preface yesterday, we identified a number of points in order to control our senses and minds, in order to become pure Vaishnavas, and in order to become Goswamis. And then a key factor in the practice of Krishna consciousness is also mentioned in the preface, that the attitude of the practitioner is of key importance. So we looked at that yesterday. We mentioned how Rupa Goswami was empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, it is said that Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, entered their hearts. And that is a special mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the Lord wants to empower a devotee, he enters the heart of the devotee. The Lord is already there as Antaryami or Super Soul, Paramatma. But sometimes the Lord will personally go into the heart of the devotee and empowers him. So it is said that Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Lord Chaitanya entered into their hearts and empowered them. That is described as Harda Kripa. Harda Kripa means when the Lord gives his mercy to the devotee by entering his heart. And that's exactly what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did with the two brothers, Rupa and Sanatan. So because Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami were so much empowered, they did what they did. And he said, Sri Chaitanya Agyapaya Bhagavat Vichariya Jata Bhakti Siddhante Kanti Jata Utayo Koto Nija Granta Kori Jata Jive Dila Prema Chintamani. Receiving the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Rupa Goswami delved into the mind of devotional conclusions and found in the Srimad Bhagavatam and extracted the essence of these compiled jewels into his books. Thus, Srila Rupa Goswami has bestowed the great gift of the touchstone of prema upon the conditioned souls of this world. So because they were so empowered, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had entered the hearts of these devotees, he empowered them to delve deep into the scriptures, Vaishnava scriptures, and mine the gold, mine the diamonds, mine the jewels, valuable jewels from these scriptures, and put them together for the benefit of the conditioned souls of this world. And Sri Upadeshamrita is one of those jewels that Rupa Goswami is offering to us. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Srila Rupa Goswami the ultimate limit of the truth about Krishna, the truth about devotional service, and the truth about transcendental mellows, culminating in conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. Finally, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Rupa Goswami about the ultimate conclusions of the Srimad Bhagavatam. To understand Krishna, there are 6 areas one has to cover. Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Prema Tattva Ara, Bhava Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Lila Tattva Sara. To understand Krishna, one needs to study Krishna Tattva, the truth about Krishna. One needs to study Bhakti Tattva, the truth about devotional service. One needs to study Prema Tattva, the truth about the love of Godhead. Bhava Tattva, the truth about ecstatic emotions. Rasa Tattva, the truth about mellows. and Leela Tattva, the truth about the pastimes of Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu imparted all these aspects of Krishna onto the heart of Rupa Goswami. And that is why he was so empowered to do what he did. So we all need empowerment from our spiritual master. We need empowerment from Krishna, from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Without their empowerment, how can we progress in Krishna consciousness? Krishna Vina Shakti. Krishna Vina Shakti. Unless one receives Krishna's mercy, unless one becomes empowered by Krishna, one cannot even chant the holy names in this age of Kali. Even to chant the holy names, some empowerment is required. And therefore, Krishna empowers the jiva to chant the holy names. So Lord Chaitanya, he empowered Rupa Goswami with the ultimate truth about Lord Krishna, the ultimate truth about devotional service, the ultimate truth about transcendental mellows, the ultimate truth about conjugal love, the ultimate truth about Krishna Leela and his pastimes. And therefore, Rupa Goswami was in the position to delve deep into all the literatures, into all the pastimes, and even into all the lost places of Vrindavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met with Ramananda Raya in his South Indian tour. And there he met Ramananda Raya. And there was a discussion between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Raya. And Lord Chaitanya asked many very esoteric questions. And Ramananda Raya went very deep because the questions were very deep. According to the level of the questions people ask, it requires a certain depth of knowledge. So because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord himself, he was asking such very serious and deep questions. But Ramananda Raya was also empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In fact, in the beginning, Ramananda Raya was reluctant to speak because he was thinking, I'm a householder. I'm a governor, a government officer. He's the governor of South India. So householder, grihasta, politician, he felt very disqualified to speak to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was a scholar and a sannyasi. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu insisted that he should speak. And actually, he empowered him to speak. And so, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whatever he received from Ramananda Raya, he also imparted it to Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami, we already mentioned, is a replica of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. He was so beautiful, externally and internally. He had such beautiful bodily features, and he had such a great mood of surrender. So externally, he was attractive, and internally, he was also attractive. And so he attracted the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was duly empowered. He was very competent, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to use him. So when we display some amount of competence, when we display transcendental beauty, then the Lord is ready to engage us. The Guru is ready to use us. So because of Rupa Goswami's level of surrender, because of his level of sense control, mind control, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could understand that. And therefore, he engaged him in excavating the spiritual places of Radha and Krishna. Some facts about Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami appeared in this world in 1411. Sakabda, that is the Bengali calendar. If we translate it to the Western calendar, is 1489. 1489. That's the year Rupa Goswami appeared in this world. He received Shiksha, that is knowledge from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Prayag in the year 1838, Shakabda, or 1516 in Western calendar. He traveled to Nilachala from Vrindavan in the year 1439, Sakabda, or 1517 AD, Western calendar. You know, while he was in Vrindavan, the Govinda Dev deity, which is one of the principal deities of Vrindavan, Govinda Dev, Radha Govinda, they manifested himself from a hill known as Gomatila. So Govinda Dev deity, which manifested to Rupa Goswami, this happened in the year 1457, Akabda of 1535 AD. So Rupa Goswami, the Radha Govinda deity, manifested before him. And that is how he began to worship these deities. Like the case of what do they call it? Radha Raman. Radha Raman deities, they also manifested from the telegram Shila that Gopal Bhatt was worshiping. Gopal Bhatt was worshiping telegram Shilas in Vrindavan. And he
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please kindly unmute. Bhakta Prince, if you don't stop this consistent disturbance of the class, we'll put you outside of the class. You should keep your microphone off until when you are asked to speak, please.
So, Rupa Goswami, because of his great devotion, Krishna manifested to him in the form of the Radha Govind from a hill. And I'm just giving the parallel. of Gopala Bhatt. He was worshiping Shaligram Shilas, and he used to keep them in a basket. He would hang them on a tree. So one day he noticed that the cover to the Shaligram Shila had raised. It was projected above the cover, the mouth of the basket that was keeping the Shaligram Shila. There's a cover. But when he woke up one day, he saw that the cover had been pushed up. So he was thinking maybe some snake had entered the basket of the Shaligram Shilas. So he had to look for some long stick and push off the cover, only to discover that his Shaligram Shilas have turned into a deity. And that is the Radha Raman deity we have in Vrindavan. Radha Raman deities in Vrindavan. So Rupa Goswami, he got his deities, they manifested before him from a hill called Gomatila in the year 1535 AD. Rupa Goswami completed the Rasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion, in the year 1621 AD. And Rupa Goswami, he disappeared from this world in the year 1486. At the age of 69. At the age of 69 years, Rupa Goswami disappeared from this world. His samadhi, where his body was put into samadhi, is at the Radha Damodara temple in Vrindavan. And that is where Srila Prabhupada stayed when he was in Vrindavan, when he was writing the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That is where he stayed. And even till today, there are still Prabhupada's rooms that are maintained by devotees in the Radha Damodara temple. And where Prabhupada's rooms are, you can see Rupa Goswami Samadhi through the windows. So while Prabhupada is writing, he's meditating on Rupa Goswami Samadhi. While he's cooking, he's meditating on Rupa Goswami Samadhi. And while he's eating, he'll be meditating on Rupa Goswami Samadhi. So it's not a chance, it's not a matter of chance that Srila Prabhupada spent the last few years preparing himself to start a preaching mission by staying in the Radha Damodara temple in order to take shelter of Rupa Goswami. Actually, it is said that one night, Rupa Goswami appeared. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they appeared before Srila Prabhupada. Before then, it described how Prabhupada every night he would sweep the courtyard of Rupa Goswami Samadhi. And he would do that with tears. He would be sweeping and crying for the mercy of Rupa Goswami. He constantly did that. And then one night, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they appeared before Prabhupada. And they actually blessed Prabhupada. They told him that his mission would be successful. And it was when Srila Prabhupada received that mercy, he received that information from these exalted devotees, personalities. It was
It appears SRIVAS VANACARI network is hanging. So wait a little bit.
Therefore, in the Manduriya Kandambini, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur offers his homage, his prayer to Rupa Goswami. Bhaktya Purva Shritya Tata Rasam Pashyat Yata Data. In the past, saintly persons have always taken shelter of devotional service. For 100 years ago, 500 years ago, such a person appeared by whose mercy seekers are able to distinctly perceive that power of devotional service to Lord Krishna, a path steep in spiritual mellows. I offer my repeated obeisances to that great soul, Srila Rupa Goswami, who is very, very dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti is one of our acharyas, very scholarly acharya. He is offering his obeisances to Rupa Goswami because Rupa Goswami has distinguished himself by his scholarly and devotional attitude. And we see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Das Kaviraj, at the end of every chapter, he will always offer obeisances to Rupa Goswami by saying, Rupa Raghunath Pade Haribe Akuti, Kabe Hama Bujibo Se Jugala Priti. At the end of every chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami will always offer obeisances to Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Bhatt. When shall I be very much eager to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis? One has to learn of the conjugal loving affairs of Radha and Krishna through the teachings of these 6 Goswamis. So Krishna Das Kaviraj, a very exalted personality, who has given us the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he's asking a question. When shall I be eager to study the literatures of the 6 Goswamis? So that question we should ask ourselves. When shall we be eager to study the books left behind by the 6 Goswamis? When shall we have that eagerness? When shall we develop the enthusiasm to study the books? Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Gopal Bhatt Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. When are we going to develop that enthusiasm, that eagerness to study these books? So that is the prayer of Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. And he repeats this prayer every end of each chapter. He will repeat this prayer. In the Manasa Shiksha of Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, he talks about becoming a Rupanuga. Rupanuga means to become a follower of Rupa. Actually, all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we are all Rupanugas. We are all followers of Sri Rupa. So Raghunadas Goswami writes in his Mana Shiksha, Mana Shiksha Dakha Shaka Varam Itam Madhurya. There are 11 excellent instructions to the mind, and they grant all spiritual benedictions. A person who stays with the devotees will automatically follow Srila Rupa Goswami, and with a sweet voice, loudly sing these 11 verses, understanding all their meanings. And he will attain the matchless jewels of direct service to Sri Radha and Krishna in the forest of Gokul. So in other words, the Mana Shiksha is a book compiled by Raghunath Das Goswami, giving lessons to the mind, and that's why it's called Mana Shiksha, instructions to the mind. So in the Mana Shiksha, 11 instructions are given by Raghunath Das Goswami. And by following these 11 shikshas, 11 instructions, one can become a Rupanuga. One can become a follower of Sri Rupa. In Srila Prabhupada's own words, he says, Rupa and Sanatana are the most exalted servitors of Srimati Radharani and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And by following their example, one can achieve the goal of life. So we are just kind of going through and adding a little bit of materials to what we discussed concerning the importance of studying Upadeshamrita. In a summary, why does Srila Rupa Goswami give us the Sri Upadeshamrita? Why? Krishna consciousness is simultaneously very simple and very deep. This is evident in Srila Prabhupada's preface to Sri Upadeshamrita, as shown in the preface. Srila Rupa Goswami gave us the Sri Upadeshamrita to guide our activities. He gave us the Sri Upadeshamrita so that we may become Goswamis. He gave us the Sri Upadeshamrita so that we can become Vaishnavas, pure Vaishnavas. And he gave us the Sri Upadeshamrita in order to make our lives successful. So these are the reasons why the Sri Upadeshamrita was written. Srila Prabhupada writes, this Krishna consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. To understand the mission of Lord Chaitanya and follow his footsteps, one must very seriously follow in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis. In all spiritual matters, one's first duty is to control the mind and the senses. Without that, it is difficult to pursue spiritual path. And therefore, Rupa Goswami has given us this Upadeshamrita to help us to control our mind and senses. And of course, advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the practitioner. This Sri Upadeshamrita is meant to raise the Kanista Adhikari, the new devotee, and leads to the platform of Madhyama Adhikari, or the middle class. So now this takes us to lesson 2. And lesson 2 comprises of 2 verses, verse 1 and verse 2. Yesterday, we went into verse 1 up to some point. So I'll just quickly go through what we have here so that we can try to end this lesson on time. We still have about an hour to go. So lesson 2 is verses 1 and 2. We already delved into verse 1. Vacho vegam manasha ve kroda vegam jiva vegam odaro pasta vegam etam vegam yo visheheta dira sarama pimam pritivim sasekshat. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. The need for tapasya. A human being is meant to be trained according to certain principles to revive his original knowledge in Krishna consciousness. Such a methodical life is described as tapasya. One can be gradually elevated to the standard of real knowledge of Krishna consciousness by practicing austerity and celibacy, by controlling the mind, by controlling the senses, by giving up one's possessions in charity, and by being avowedly truthful, and by keeping clean, and by practicing yoga asanas. We already discussed that yesterday. The importance of tapasya, the importance of controlling the mind, the importance of controlling the senses, the importance of giving charity, the importance of being truthful, and the importance of keeping one's body clean, one's body and mind clean, and the importance of yoga exercises. All these are mentioned in the purport to the first verse. If one is fortunate enough to get the association of pure devotees, he can easily surpass all the practices for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process, simply by following the regulatory principles of Krishna consciousness, refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, and by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. This easy process is being recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami. We already discussed this. Some analogies were given in the purport. These are the thief and the policeman, the elephant bath, Christians' confessions, and the regulated hygienic process. Sometimes a student is asked to cite an analogy that was given in the particular verse, the purport of a particular verse. So in this first verse, 4 analogies were given. The thief and the police, the elephant bath, Christian confessions, and regulated hygienic process. It said that we learn by hearing, but a fool learn by experience. And even there are some, even after receiving so much experience, they cannot learn. They still commit the same mistakes. The thief sees that another thief has been arrested and jailed, but he still goes to steal. And even some people, even though they were arrested, tried, and jailed, when they come out of prison, again they steal. and they go through the same process. So the thief and the police, then the elephant bath. When the elephant takes a bath very nicely in the lake, but as soon as it comes out to the land, it will just throw dust all over its body. So that is people who confess their sins and go back to commit the same sins. Their activities are like that of an elephant bathing. And then so the Christian confessions tally with this. And if we keep clean, hygienic surroundings, keep our bodies in a clean state, there is no question of sickness. Sickness comes when we don't keep a clean environment. If you eat contaminated food, you drink contaminated water, you sleep in an atmosphere full of insects, mosquitoes, bed bugs, and the like, one is bound to be sick. So in other words, if you associate with mundane people who are accustomed to sinful life, you become spiritually sick. But if you associate with devotees who are free from sinful life, automatically we will also give up our sinful activities. Then we talk about the power of controlling the speech. There is the austerity of speech. Austerity of speech is talked about by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Speaking sweetly, speaking nicely, speaking beneficially, speaking to uplift people. Those are speeches in the mode of goodness. But when we speak nonsense, we simply attract Maya. When we speak Gramya Kata means material topics. It simply attracts the snake of Maya. So when we speak about Krishna, then we do not attract Maya. And again, there is an analogy here. The toad croaks. The toad speaks by croaking. That croaking attracts snakes to come and swallow the snake, the toad. So when we speak unnecessarily, when we speak unrelated topics with Krishna, then we are simply inviting the snake of Maya to come and swallow us. So speech is important. If we control our speech, we reduce our problem by far. If we cannot control our speech, then we invite so much trouble into our lives. So speech control is crucial for a devotee. And so Prabhupada says, the urge to speak includes writing volumes upon volumes of useless literature. People are eagerly writing so many books, and the libraries are full of many books, but they are not glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Sloka. If one's speech or one's writing does not directly glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is considered Gramya Kata, is considered Prajalpa, is considered useless talk because it does not bring about development of Krishna consciousness. It does not take one to the ultimate goal of life. Then we talk about thinking about Krishna. Krishna is like the sun. Krishna Surya Sama. And Maya Haya Adankara. Maya is like darkness and Krishna is like the sun. And we associate with Krishna, we are always within the light of Krishna. But if you don't associate with Krishna, we have to be in the darkness of Maya. The choice is ours. We have to choose where we want to belong. The mind cannot be empty. The mind must be occupied with something. That's the nature of the mind. Thousands and thousands of waves, varsanas, are produced by the mind. Thousands of thoughts are coming off the mind. And if these thoughts are simply centered around Maya, then we would be attracted by Maya Adankara, the darkness of Maya. But if we are always talking about Krishna, always engaged in Krishna Katha, then we shall be under the sun of Krishna, and Maya will not touch us. We talked about anger, using our anger in the service of the Lord. An example given here is Hanumanji and Lord Chaitanya himself. When Lord Chaitanya heard that his principal associate, Nityananda Prabhu, was attacked by Jagai and Madai, Lord Chaitanya dashed to the spot and wanted to kill these demons. So he showed his anger, even though Lord Chaitanya in his Shastikam proposed that one should be as humble as a blade of grass and as tolerant as a tree. Yet, when he heard that Lord Nityananda was attacked, he immediately dashed to the spot to kill these offenders. So our anger can be used to defend the devotees, to defend the Lord, to protect the devotees, to protect the Lord. And that is the best use or the proper use of anger. And I mentioned how Arjuna was not fighting to his best ability. And so Krishna provoked his anger. He was still showing some respect to some certain personalities on the opposite side. And so Krishna arranged that his son, Abhimanyu, was killed. And when he heard in a very cruel way his son was killed, he became so incensed with anger that he promised, he took a vow that the person who actually killed Abhimanyu must be dead by the evening of the next day. And that was Jairata. So anger can be utilized in Krishna's. Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, is written that anger should be utilized for the God purpose. But if is the nature of the person, anger is the, like, everybody has that like this anger, but it's written that we have to use for the God purpose. But how to connect it with the house, like a family, if it is there, it is going to come.
Yes, anger is part of life. Anger is part of our nature. We cannot avoid it. It's there. But it has to be controlled. If you don't control it, it would spoil your relationships. That is a fact. Anger breaks relationships. So you have to see how to use it. If a child does something wrong, if the parents are not angry, how will they correct? Yeah, so anger has a role. It has a role in dealing with human beings. If a manager does not get angry, how can he correct his subordinates? So when anger is utilized for correction. It is considered service. If a father or a mother corrects the child, it is a demonstration of their love. So the anger is utilized in helping the child. If a spiritual master becomes angry with a disciple and chastises him, the disciple should accept that as a special mercy. If a superior chastises a junior, the mood is we should accept it as Krishna's mercy. Because if he does not get angry, how will he correct us? So anger has to be used, but we should not allow anger to control our lives. If anger controls our lives, then we cannot even know when to use it and when not to use it. That's the most important thing. We must know when to use anger and when not to use anger. There are certain situations anger will not help. It will worsen the case. So it is not every situation anger has to be applied. It's not every situation, every mistake we have to use anger. Sometimes you just tolerate it and use the opposite means. Glorify the person, appreciate the person. Of course, it is said that when one is angry, one should not talk. Because when you are angry, you have no control of the words that will come out of your mouth. So the advice is that when you are angry, just keep quiet. In fact, it says when you're angry, put water in your mouth. Because anger is like fire. And so only water can quench fire. So when you are very angry, as soon as you open your mouth, you're going to say something that will hurt somebody. So they advise that when you're angry, drink some water. You drink some water. The water will cool the anger, and keep the water in the mouth so that you don't have the chance to talk. But anger is necessary in family life because sometimes our children go wrong, we have to correct them. Sometimes our husbands go wrong, we have to correct them. Sometimes our wives go wrong, we have to correct them. So, and at that time, you have to know how to apply the anger. But we should know when to use the anger. If the circumstances is not conducive for anger, we have to use the opposite. Instead of throwing anger, we should throw appreciation. There are some people, if you shout at them, they become more angry. They will not do what you want. But if you appreciate them, instead of shouting at them, you just appreciate him or just say something positive. Then he will cool down. Then you now have the opportunity to correct. Like that. So anger is something that it comes from the mode of passion, actually. Is from the mode of passion. And we should not associate with it so much. If you associate so much with anger, it means you are controlled by the mode of passion. Yeah, so a devotee must work towards dealing with anger. It comes without even invitation. It just comes. Certain things you're not happy with it, anger will find a way to come out. So it's a very tough, it's a tough homework. It's a tough discipline. One must put on himself not to get angry at all times. Actually, Bhishma Dev in his instructions to Yudhishthira Maharaj on his deathbed, he also talked about anger. He said anger has to be controlled. If you are always angry, you take wrong decisions. Anger will make you take wrong decisions that you regret for later on. So when you're angry, don't take a decision. When you are angry, it's better you don't even talk. Just find some place to go. When the anger subsides, then you can talk. You can talk. So anger is there. It's part of our life, and we have to see how to deal with it, especially in a household life when we have to deal with our relatives on day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis. So we have to develop appreciation. Appreciation is a very powerful tool. Even before we chastise, before we attack, we should first say something good about the person so that the fellow will see that you're not just trying to find some fault. You're not just trying to bring him down. So normally the Vaishnava way of correcting people is that you say one good thing about the person before you bring off his fault. Then he will see, oh, this is a balanced situation. It's not just finding fault. He's appreciating me, but something is wrong. He's pointing it out to me. So it's a whole discipline, it's a whole science. And so we have to learn it, we have to practice it, we have to apply it. So we go on to controlling the tongue. Yesterday we mentioned the tongue has two functions, tasting and speaking. And Lord Chaitanya gave an instruction. Jivera lalasi ye uti iti uti daya. The one who is subservient, one who has become a servant of his tongue, and who runs here and there just to satisfy the tongue and his genitals, such a person cannot become Krishna conscious. So if we just follow the tongue, eat anything and everything, and we just go here, go there, finding something to eat, then we cannot control the tongue, and we can't control the belly, and we can't control our genitals. And we cannot become Krishna conscious. If this line of urges, the tongue, belly, and genitals are in a line, these three urges are in a line. If you don't control them, it is not possible to become Krishna conscious.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
If we don't control our tongue, eating Krishna Prasad is okay.
Well, that is the only way. Krishna Kata and Krishna Kata and Krishna Prasad. That's the only two things we can use to control the tongue. If you engage the tongue in Krishna Prasad and Krishna Kata, wonderful. That's the only way. Otherwise, the tongue wants to say something, the tongue wants to taste something. It has that tendency. So if you engage in eating Krishna Prasad and speaking about Krishna, wonderful. That's the best way.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Please accept my humble obeisance once again.
All glories to God.
Like I have a question on disappearance or Sri Rupa Goswami disappeared.
Yeah.
I don't know. He left the body or he just disappeared just like that.
When we hear the Vaishnava, a devotee disappears, it means he has passed away. He has left the body. When you talk about his samadhi, that's where his body is buried in Vrindavan. In the Radha Damodara temple, Rupa Goswami's body is buried, and the samadhi is built over where the body was buried. So you can still go there and pray and take darshan of the samadhi. Just like Prabhupada also, Prabhupada's body is buried in Vrindavan at the Krishna Balaram temple. And the temple is built over it. So the Buddhists are programmed there. They have Mangarati there. They have Guru Puja there. So you can circumambulate Prabhupada's body and take darshan of his murti. So disappear means he actually left the body. Only Lord Chaitanya disappeared without leaving anything.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
But Rupa Goswami, he left a body, and the body is buried in Vrindavan. in Radha Damodara temple.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
In Hindu culture, we burn the body, but some of them, like greatest sannyasis, they bury the body. Why?
Yes, yes. It is said that the sannyasis, the gurus, because they have utilized their body in Krishna's service, 100%, their bodies are spiritualized. And so instead of burning them, we keep them in samadhi, so that wherever these bodies are buried, they emit spiritual vibrations. And people who go there, they can get that benediction. They can benefit by coming close to the area where these bodies are buried. So like Rupa Goswami's body, 500 years ago, by now it has turned into dust. But even that dust still have the potency of Rupa Goswami. And just by going there to pray, by going to pay obeisances, you can get the mercy of Rupa Goswami. And that's why Srila Prabhupada stayed there to write his first volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the bodies of the sannyasis, the bodies of saintly people, the bodies of gurus are put in samadhi, they are buried, because it will make that place sanctified, because they have used their bodies in the service of the Lord fully. It has become sanctified, and wherever that body is buried, it sanctifies the atmosphere. And whoever goes there also becomes sanctified.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. So I
So,
think
Hare Krishna, Maharaj,
yeah.
I beg offer my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, Anandini Nidanam.
Nadi Ananda, so, Maharaj,
Yeah.
thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare
So,
Krishna.
I would like to know, but why will some option for cremation? I mean, the sannyasis, why will some option for cremation?
Well, that is their choice. Well, we can't challenge them. Like Bhakti Tita Maharaj, our Guru Maharaj, he opted for cremation. I think some of the Goswamis also, their bodies are not put in samadhi. They also opted for a cremation. So we don't have some of the Goswamis, their samadhis, because they opted for cremation. We can say the circumstances, like Bhakti Tita Maharaj, if he had passed away in India, they would have put his body in samadhi. But because he passed away in Gitanagari in the West, and the Gitanagari land is what do they call it? It is, the land is not an outright purchase. It is a high, it is not even a higher purchase. It's a lease property. It's a lease land. So there's a period of time we can occupy it. And then we just continue to lease, to renew the lease. But any time, the owners can say, I won't lease the land anymore, get out. So at that time, what will they do with the body? If they should put his body in samadhi and get an agri, when the owners of the land says, we don't want you here, take your body out. Take everything away from here. It will be a problem for the devotees. So that's why Guru Maharaj said they should cremate his body and take his ashes to Mayapur for samadhi. And that's what they did. In fact, recently we had a very serious case in Bhubaneswar. In Bhubaneswar, Gaura Govinda Maharaj body was put in samadhi. And unfortunately, they put a samadhi in a government land. The temple is near the highway. So when you are near the highway, there's a certain amount of land you must not venture, you must not do anything there, because the government can expand the road anytime. Unfortunately, these devotees, because the land is there, they put the samadhi on that government land. And last year, was it 2 years ago, government came and said they are going to break the samadhi because they want to expand the road. It was a very big issue. And for government, what can you do? They own the place. So they were compelled to exhume. They were compelled to bring out the body. Of course, because the body is in samadhi, they put the whole body, they cover it with salt. When you are doing the samadhi, they sit the body down in a lotus form and they cover the whole body with salt from bottom to top. So the salt absorbs the water from the body, it dries it up. So the flesh stick to the bones and you still sit in that form. So when they brought out Guru Govinda's remains, he was still in that lotus form with the skin attached to the bones. But it was a very nasty experience for the devotees in Bhubaneswar. They have to dig the samadhi and bring out the whole body of Guru Govinda Maharaj and put him in samadhi in the proper place. So Gurudev wanted to avoid such a situation. So he said they shouldn't put his body in samadhi. So circumstances sometimes do not warrant the putting in samadhi. So they choose. And some people, out of humility, they don't want to have a samadhi. People will come there and pray. They feel I'm not qualified. Like the case of what is his name? Gora Kishore. Gora Kishore, the spiritual master of Bhakti Siddhanta. He told his associates, his friends, that if I die, they should tie me to a rope. They should tie his legs to a rope and drag him on the ground and throw him into the Ganga. He said, I am so impure, I'm so unholy, that if you drag me on the ground of Mayapur or Navadvip, the dust of the holy place will purify me. And if you throw me into the Ganga, then Ganga will purify me. And these people, they didn't think that this is just speaking out of humility. So as soon as Guru Govinda, Guru Kishore's Das Babaji passed away, they started to tie his legs. They looked for ropes because they said that's the order he gave. They began to tie his legs, tie his hands, so they can drag him throughout the whole of the holy dam, and then finally throw him into the Ganga. But unfortunately for them, Bhakti Siddhanta arrived. He got the news that his Guru Maharaj had passed away. He was in Calcutta, so he came. And just arrived when they started tying Guru Kishore's Das Baba's legs. He asked them, why? Why are you tying my Guru Maharaj's legs? And they said, oh, that's his order. He ordered us that when he died, we should tie his legs and drag him all through the holy dam and throw him into the Ganga. So we are following the order. And Bhakti Siddhanta said, you are all fools. You are all stupid. He spoke that out of humility. How can you do that? He said they should clear away from the place. Then there was an argument, and some of them said they are disciples of Gora Kishore Das Babaji, and there's the Guru's order, they have to follow it. And Bhakti Siddhanta says, look, let me tell you, I'm the only disciple of Gora Kishore. I'm the only disciple. So I don't know anyone as my god brother here. I don't recognize any of you as my god brothers. My Guru Maharaj never told me he had disciples. So I have the authority to decide, not any of you. And they still argued. Then Bhakti Siddhanta said, all right, we'll test everybody here. So if you say you are a Vaishnava, those of you who have not slept with women for the last 1 month, you can touch my Guru Maharaj's body. But if you have touched a woman in the last 1 month and you touch his body, you fall dead. Some of them step away. And some were still there. He said, those of you who have not touched a woman in the last 1 week, you can touch the body. If you not, you cannot touch his body. And everybody left. So he exposed them that they were wearing Babaji dresses. They were claiming to be Vaishnavas, but they were still having illicit affairs. So he used that to drive them away. And then he removed the ropes and took his Guru Maharaj, performed the right rituals, and put him in Samadhi. So Guru Govinda, Guru Kishore Das Babaji Samadhi is in Mayapur. So sometimes out of humility, the devotee says, please, bend my body or throw my body into the Ganga or do this or do that out of humility. But the followers should understand that he is speaking out of deep, deep humility. We should do what is right for the benefit of the world. We have some things to cover. So let's suspend the questions. At the end, if there is time, we can answer more questions. But we have to go to text 2 now, according to this this lesson. How much more minutes do we have? It's already 11. We have 30 minutes to go. We already mentioned about the agitations of the flickering mind. And that's when I was talking about the 11 lessons one has to learn from the Manashiksha, the book written by Raghunath Das Goswami, giving 11 instructions to the mind. And by learning those 11 instructions, one can become a Rupa Nunga. One can become a follower of Rupa. Because from the very onset, Rupa is talking about mind control, sense control. So in order to become a Rupa Nunga, we must control the mind and control the senses. So that is already touched upon. The mind is always agitated. The mind is always flickering. That's the nature of the mind. And the only way to keep the mind engaged is chanting Hare Krishna, speaking about Krishna, thinking about Krishna. And that's why Krishna is saying, Man mana bhava bhakto, man yaji mam namaskuru. If we always think of Krishna, we always engage in Krishna service, we always worship Krishna, then the mind will be fully engaged, and there is no question of mind and sense control. When it comes to the needs of the body's demands are divided into 3 categories: the demand of the tongue, the demand of the belly, and the demand of the genitals. One may observe that these 3 senses are physically situated in a straight line as far as the body is concerned, and that the bodily demands begin with the tongue. If one can restrain the demands of the tongue by limiting its activities to the eating of prasadam and speaking Krishna Katha, then the urges of the belly and the genitals can automatically be controlled. So the demands on the body are of 3 kinds: the tongue, the belly, and the genitals. And the whole thing begins with the tongue. If one knows how to engage his tongue, then he can equally control the belly, and then he can equally control the genitals. It is said that the tongue is always hungering after different kinds of food stuff. There is tamasic food, food in the mode of ignorance; rajasic food, food in the mode of passion; and sattvic food, food in the mode of goodness. Then the tongue is always eager to taste some intoxicants, cigarettes, coffee, tea, marijuana, and so on. The tongue, these are all the agitations of the tongue. The tongue is hungering for all these things. The tongue also wants to taste palatable, rich food. And the tongue wants to eat very opulent prasadam. So, Raghunath Das Goswami, he instructed that one should not eat very, very rich food, very, very palatable food, because the tongue would want to consume more and more and more. If the food is very tasty, if the food is very palatable, you cannot control the tongue. The tongue would just want to gratify itself as much as possible. Of course, we don't say we should offer some very dry chapati or some dry leaves to Krishna. No, but we should not cook a very opulent food with a desire to enjoy it. If we cook opulent food with a desire to enjoy it, then it will be very difficult to control the tongue.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
But can I ask just small question? But we cook food opulently for the God.
Yes, we can cook opulent food for Krishna, but the mindset should be, I am doing this for Krishna's pleasure. We shouldn't be thinking, let me cook opulent food so that I can enjoy. If you are cooking and you are thinking like this, then it will be very difficult to control the tongue because you eat a lot. And by eating a lot, you agitate the senses, and then you cannot control your genitals. So therefore, we can cook. It doesn't mean we shouldn't cook anything opulent. We should cook the best meal, the best Raj Bhoga, and offer to Krishna. But the mindset is, I'm just doing this for Krishna's pleasure. And then when it comes to accepting prasad, we should not overdo it also. We shouldn't say because the food is so tasty, it's so nice, let me eat until it comes to the throat. And you cannot even breathe. Then you can't control your tongue. So you should take just enough to keep soul and body together. Then it is not, we are not breaking the rule.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I think we'll go to the next verse. So actually the essence of text 1, as follows. Real atonement means awakening our dormant Krishna consciousness. Talking of materialistic men and impersonalistic Mayavad philosophers is compared to croaking of frogs. The mind can naturally be controlled when we always think of Krishna and how to serve him best, or how to best serve him. The bodily demands begin with the tongue. So if the tongue is controlled, we can control the bodily demands. So these are the essential points that you can pick from the purport to text 1. One cannot become a qualified or bona fide spiritual master when one can become a qualified or a bona fide spiritual master when one is fully practiced in the methods of Krishna conscious sense and mind control. If it is possible to get free from Maya's victimization, it is possible to become free from Maya's victimization if we practice accepting only remnants of food offered to Krishna and speaking only about Krishna. This is the best way to control the tongue. And this is the greatest problem for humanity. The urge of the belly and genitals can be controlled by praying to Krishna for empowerment. So we should also pray to Krishna for empowerment. And this takes us to text 2. Text 2. Text 2 says, Atyahara prayasyascha prajalpo niyamangraha janasangascha lulyamcha saribir bhakti vinashati. Translation. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2, endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5, associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. So these are the 6 items that spoil one's devotional service: eating more than necessary, or collecting more funds than necessary, endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or even rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5, associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. So these 6 items must be avoided by devotees if we want to make progress in Krishna consciousness. So human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. Human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. Since all conditioned beings are under the control of the Lord's external energy, the material world is designed so that one is obliged to work. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has 3 primary energies or potencies. The first is called the Antaranga Shakti, or the internal potency. The second is called the Tatastha Shakti, or the marginal potency. And the third is called Bahiranga Shakti, or the external potency. The living entities constitute the marginal potency, and they are situated between the internal and external potencies. Being subordinate as eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Jivatmas, or atomic living entities, must remain under the control of either the internal or external potency. When they are under the control of the internal potency, they display their natural constitutional activity, namely constant engagement in devotional service. So the living entity belongs to the Tatastha Shakti. Tatastha means middle line. Like we see when you go to the ocean, there is an area which is a middle line. Sometimes it's covered by water and sometimes it is dry. It depends on the rising of the sea. When the sea is rising, water will cover a certain area. And when the sea is not rising, that area becomes dry. So that area is called Tatastha. The living entity is in that position. Sometimes we are influenced by the spiritual energy. Sometimes we are influenced by the external energy. That choice is ours. So, when the living entity comes under the control of the internal potency, they display their natural constitutional activity, namely engagement in Krishna consciousness, engagement in devotional service. But when they are under the control of the external potency, then they give up their constitutional duty. And that is the case of all the living entities in this material world. Everyone has given up the service of Krishna, and we are all engaged in our own activities. We're engaged in our service, the service of our senses, and the service of our extended bodies, our family, friends, society. We serve our senses and we serve their senses. So it's an extended service of our senses. So our natural constitutional position is to remain in devotional service. So therefore, there are 2 categories of human beings. One is called Mahatma and one is called Duratma. The word Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded. not cripple-minded. A cripple-minded person always engage in satisfying their senses and sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some ism like nationalism, humanitarianism, altruism, and so on. They may reject personal sense gratification for the sense gratification of others, like the members of a family, community, society, national, international. Actually, all these activities are extended sense gratification from a personal to communal to social. These activities may all be very good from the material point of view, but they have no spiritual value. The basis of such activities is sense gratification, either personal or extended. Only when a person gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord can he be called a Mahatma or a broad-minded person. So these two terms, Mahatma and Duratma. Mahatma means broad-minded, and to be broad-minded means to engage in the service of the Lord, to gratify the senses of Krishna. When we engage in gratifying, in pleasing the senses of Krishna, then such a person is described as Mahatma. But when we limit our activities to our senses, if our actions are simply meant for gratifying our senses or our extended senses,
Prabhu's network is hanging again. It's off, so I guess he will join back. Okay, yeah. Okay, welcome.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it went off. The triple-minded jivas are put under the control of the Lord's external energy. The Mahatmas, they are always under Krishna's protection. Mahatmanas manaparta, daivim prakritim ashmitaha. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the Mahatmas are always under the divine protection of the Lord. But the Duratmas, the cripple-minded jivas, they are put under the control of the external energy. They are under the authority of Durga Devi. The words Daiva Prakritim refers to the control of the internal potency or pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This pleasure potency is manifested as Srimati Radharani or expansions as Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. When the individual jiva are under the control of the internal energy, their only engagement is to satisfy Krishna's senses. This is the position of the Mahatma. If one is not a Mahatma, then he is Duratma or cripple. So the choice is with the living entity. The business of Mahamaya is to give miseries to all living entities in the material world. Dukalayam asaswatam, Krishna mentions. Dukalayam asaswatam. The material world is designed to give trouble to a living entity who refuses to serve the Lord. Indeed, all living entities within this material world are under the control of Mahamaya, whose business is to subject them to the influence of the threefold miseries. Adidayvika klesha, suffering caused by the demigods, such as droughts, earthquakes, and storms. Adibhoktika klesha, sufferings caused by other living entities like insects or enemies. And adhyatmika klesha, suffering caused by one's own body and mind, anxiety, hunger, thirst. Daiva bhutadma hetavo, the conditioned souls is subjected to these three miseries by the control of the external energy, and he suffers unlimited difficulties. So that is our situation. Once you enter this material world, which is designed to give us trouble, the conditioned soul will suffer. The problem confronting the conditioned soul, the main problem confronting the conditioned souls is the repetition of birth, old age, disease, and death. In the material world, one has to work for the maintenance of the body and soul. But how can one perform such work in a way that is favorable for the execution of Krishna consciousness? Everyone requires possessions such as food, grains, clothing, money, and other necessities for the maintenance of the body. But one should not collect more than necessary for his actual basic needs. If this principle is followed, there will be no difficulty in maintaining the body. So, birth, old age, disease, and death are the real problems confronting everyone, irrespective of our location on this planet, irrespective of our race, our country, irrespective of our social status, irrespective of our academic stature, irrespective of all material factors. These four miseries affect everyone. That is basic. But if we simply collect enough to maintain body and soul together, we'll also minimize the effect of these miseries. Because we are trying to exploit material nature. We are not just trying to take enough for our maintenance. We want to actually exploit material nature so that we can stand out, we can distinguish ourselves. We have achieved this. The millionaires, they have enough money, but why are they still working? Because they want to show that they are the greatest. They have made so much money. They are worth 13 billion. They are worth 14 billion. They are worth 100 billion. They cannot eat all that money. They don't actually need it, but just the desire to accumulate so that they can become prominent, they can become superior to others. So with such a situation, we cannot escape the effects of these miseries. But if one just takes enough, whatever he needs to maintain soul and body together, whatever he needs to practice Krishna consciousness, if you just have enough of that, and you put all your energy into Krishna consciousness, you will not be bothered about all these miseries. No, they will come, but because you are completely detached, you will not be bothered about them. So, bodily needs we cannot avoid, but over endeavoring to accumulate more than what we need creates great anxiety. It creates unnecessary trouble, and it makes us miserable. Greed spoils the good intelligence of man. Collecting and eating more than necessary causes prayasha, or unnecessary endeavor. By God's arrangement, anyone in any part of the world can live very peacefully if he has some land and some milk cow. There is no need for man to move from place to place just to earn a livelihood. For one can produce food grains locally, get milk from the cow. That can solve all our economic problems. Fortunately, man has been given higher intelligence for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness. or the understanding of God and the ultimate goal of life, love of Godhead. Unfortunately, so-called civilized man, not caring for God realization, utilizes his God-given intelligence for getting more and more than necessary to simply eat and satisfy the tongue. So greed is actually our greatest enemy. Krishna mentions that Kam Lok Kroda. I think in the 16th chapter, 16 verse 21. 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse 21. Krishna mentions that as the enemies, the gates to hell. Yeah, the 3 gates to hell. Kam, Loba, Kam, Kroda, Kam, Lok, and Kroda. Yeah, is here. Kama, Kroda, Tata, Lobas. The 3 gates that leads to hell: lust, anger, and greed. Therefore, every sane man should give up this, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. So greed is one of those 3 things that creates problem for the living entity. Religion means understanding the laws of God. Religion entails understanding the laws of God because the proper execution of these laws ultimately leads one out of the material entanglement. That is the true purpose of religion. Unfortunately, people accept religion for material prosperity because of this atyahara, or an excessive desire for such material prosperity. True religion, however, instructs people to be satisfied with the bare necessities of life while cultivating Krishna consciousness. Even though we require economic development, true religion allows it only for supplying the bare necessities of material existence. The real purpose of life is to inquire about the absolute truth. Jivasya tattva gigyamsa. If our endeavor is not to inquire about the absolute truth, we will simply increase our endeavor to satisfy our artificial needs. A spiritual aspirant should avoid such material endeavor. So greed is a great impediment on the path of a spiritual practitioner. If one is just greedy to acquire so much, then it is difficult to practice Krishna consciousness. Definitely, we need to maintain the body and soul together. We need a certain amount of food, clothing, money, housing. We need it. And so we should not over-endeavor. If we over-endeavor for more than what we need, it becomes prayasha. And it causes a fall down from the spiritual path. Prajalpa means material talk, mundane talk, unnecessary talk. The impediment of prajalpa. Another impediment is prajalpa, unnecessary talking. When we mix with our few friends, we immediately begin to talk unnecessarily, just sounding like the croaking toads. If we must talk, we should talk about Krishna. Those outside of Krishna consciousness are interested in reading heaps of newspapers, magazines, novels, cross puzzles, and doing many other nonsensical things. In this fashion, people simply waste their valuable time and energy. In the Western countries, old men retire from active life, play cards, fish, watch television, debate, and do so many socio-political schemes. All these and other frivolous activities are included in the prajalpa category. Intelligent persons interested in Krishna consciousness should never take part in such activities. Prajalpa or Gramya Kata, unnecessary talk. Talks that are not related to Krishna, they are actually very dangerous because they can carry the mind into a great wilderness. They can take the mind into an unlimited space for speculation and for sense gratification. So the more we refrain from engaging in prajalpa or gramya kata, unnecessary talk, mundane talk, the more we free ourselves from suffering. Because when the mind is attached to all of these mundane arrangements, we fall into anxiety and we're always worried. But if we limit ourselves to Krishna Kata, and we engage in Krishna Kata and are not bothered about what is going on in the material world, we will be more peaceful because we'll be satisfied by talking about Krishna. So prajalpa, speaking about unnecessary things, is disastrous for our spiritual life. And therefore, a devotee avoids prajalpa. And that is why it is said that one should not associate with non-devotees, because non-devotees have nothing to talk about except Maya. Their whole topic from morning to evening is just to glorify the material energy, talk about politics, talk about economics, talk about different things. They don't talk anything about Krishna consciousness, about the soul, about devotional service. So they simply waste their time like this, and they simply invite more suffering. Associating with persons in similar business is very conducive for progress. Jnana Sangha refers to associating with persons not interested in Krishna consciousness. One should strictly avoid such association. So Narottam Das Thakur has therefore advised us to live only in the association of Krishna conscious devotees. Bhakta Sane Vasha. One should always engage in the service of the Lord in the association of the Lord's devotees. Association with those engaged in a similar line of business is very conducive to the advancement of Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada writes, this spiritual association is offered by our International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and many people from different parts of the world are joining this society to awaken their dormant Krishna consciousness. So the society is created to create a spiritual organization, create a spiritual association, Sangha, Bhakti Sangam, a devotional association, so that when we associate with such people, then we can give up the material propensities of talking unnecessarily. The desire to accumulate more and more without knowing the future is dangerous. Karmis labor to accumulate more and more money for future generations, only because they don't know their future position. Interested only in getting more and more money for their sons and grandsons, such foolish persons do not even know what their position is going to be in their next life. There are many incidents that illustrate this point. Once a great Kami accumulated a vast fortune for his sons and grandsons, but later, according to his karma, he took his birth as a cobbler's. He took birth in a cobbler's house located near the building which he has built in his previous life, and which is now being occupied by his children. It so happened that when this very cobbler came to his former house, his own children and grandsons beat him with shoes on the head and told him to get out. He belongs to the cobbler family. They belong to a rich family. Unless the Karmis and Gyanis become interested in Krishna consciousness, they will simply continue to waste their life in fruitless activities. So here this man has suffered, labored to build a big house, labored to create a big wealth for his children and grandchildren, and he took a birth. By his karma, he took birth as a cobbler's son next to his house. And because of that attachment is there from the previous life, he automatically wants to go there. But having taken birth from the cobbler's family, his own children and grandchildren will not allow him in the house. They consider him a cobbler, And so they will beat him with shoes when he tried to enter the house. But that is his own house. He has built it. So that's the danger of materialistic civilization without spiritual goals. Whimsically accepting and rejecting scriptural rules and regulations. Accepting some of the scriptural rules and regulations for immediate benefit as utilitarian advocate is called niyama agraha. And neglecting the rules and regulations of the Shastra, which are meant for spiritual development, is called niyama agraha. The word agraha means eagerness to accept, and agraha means failure to accept. So we should be eager to accept the spiritual rules and regulations for spiritual advancement, and we should not be eager to neglect the rules and regulations of the scripture or accepting them for whimsical purposes. Avoiding the association of Mayavadis. One should also avoid association with Mayavadis, who simply blaspheme Vaishnavas. Bhakti Kama, who are interested in material happiness. Mukti Kamis, who desire liberation by merging into the existence of the formless absolute. Siddhi Kamis, those who desire mystic perfections. All these are described as atyaharas. They are over endeavoring. To associate with such persons is not at all desirable. Desire to expand the mind by perfecting mystic yoga, merging into the existence of Brahman, or attaining whimsical material prosperity are all included in the greed for material opulence. All attempts to acquire such material benefits or so-called spiritual advancement are impediments on the path of Krishna consciousness.
Maharaj,
Yeah.
can you please differentiate between the Siddhi Kami and the Bhakti Kami and
Well,
the three types of Kamis?
we have Bhakti Kamis, we have Mukti Kamis, and Siddhi Kamis. Bhakti
If
Kamis,
you can explain them for us.
yeah, the Bhakti Kamis are sense gratifiers. Their whole goal is how to grab more material objects to enjoy the senses. So those are the karmis. The whole material world is full of karmis and working very hard. And what is the purpose of that is just to gratify the senses. So they are called bhukti. Bhukti means to enjoy. And we have mukti karmis. Mukti karmis are those who are laboring hard, performing austerities, doing so many things in order to be liberated into Brahmanda. They want to be liberated from this material world, but their goal is not to enter into the spiritual world. They will enter into the Brahman Jyoti and merge with the Brahman. So those are called mukti karmis. They're endeavoring for liberation, but their liberation is not complete. Their liberation is only to merge with the effulgence of the Lord. And that is considered suicidal for the devotees, because the devotee wants to enter into the spiritual planet, see the Lord, render service to the Lord, and enjoy the association of the Lord, because by rendering service, there is reciprocation. In the case of these mukti karmis, they have no relationship with the Lord, and therefore they have no relationship with the spiritual planets. They find themselves in the Brahman Jyoti, and there they have to remain in an inactive situation. And because they cannot remain there for a long time inactive, again, after some time, they will fall back into the material world. So it's a temporary situation. For the Siddhi Karmis, they are the yogis. They are looking for siddhis. Siddhis means mystical perfections. They want to show how powerful they are. They want to show how superior they are. They are also considered they're after something. They are not doing it for the purpose of giving pleasure to Krishna. The Bhakti Yogi, he is working in Krishna's interest. He is working for the pleasure of Krishna. And he is the best amongst them. And that's why he is described as Shanta. Shanta means peaceful. These other people are described as Ashanta, Ashantaha. They are always unpeaceful because they are always hungry for something. But a bhakti devotee, bhakti yogi, he is always shanta. He is always peaceful because he is engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these three categories, bhukti, mukti, and siddhi, they have some desire to fulfill. They want to achieve something which is not related to the Supreme Lord, and therefore they are always in anxiety. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. So the essence of this, we are going to round up. The essence of this text too are as follows. 1, a Mahatma is one who gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord. 2, there will be no difficulty in maintaining the body if we don't collect more than necessary for our needs. 3, the first step in human civilization consists of occupational engagements performed according to scriptural injunctions. 4, prajalpa means unnecessary talking, reading newspapers, magazines, novels, crosswords, playing cards, fishing, watching television. They are all under prajalpa. Janasanga, associating with mundane people, refers to association with people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And this includes the jnanis and the yogis. And 6, atyaharas include the bhukti kamis, the mukti kamis, and the siddhi kamis. And this brings us to the end of lesson 2. We have already gone over time by 11 minutes. If some questions are there, if devotees will still tolerate for another 2-3 minutes. If there are some questions, they can be asked. If there are no questions, we would close here and we meet again next week with lesson 3. Lesson 3 involves, I think, 3 verses. 3 verses. Yeah, 3, 4, and 5. That constitutes lesson 3. So try to read the purports. If you read the purports, because the way I'm doing it, I'm not reading the whole purport. I've picked out essential parts. I've gone through all the purports and I've picked out essential points from the purports, and that is what I will be discussing. But if you can read all the purports, then it will be much relatable for you because you can put the whole thing together. I'm just picking important areas of the purports, and that is what we are discussing. But if you can read the whole purport, then you will enjoy the discussion much, much better. So please find some time to read these 3 verses, verse 3, text 3, text 4, and text 5. Then next weekend, we'll discuss that. Thank you, and Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Any question?
Yeah, Maharaj, thank you so much for insight. I want to understand this. In the situation where, let's say, on the field of Sankirtan, a devotee come across some unbelievers who are passing out a whole lot of defamatory character or information about the Supreme Lord. And let's say, consequently, he has become annoyed, or he has become angry with the people or those unbelievers.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between that and others, as you were just explaining?
Well, we should be angry when the Lord is blasphemed. That is correct. It's a correct mood. We should be angry when devotees are blasphemed. We should be angry when devotees are attacked. We should be angry when the Lord is attacked. We should be angry. That is our right mood. But now it depends on what can we do. So there are recommendations. The first thing is that they said if somebody is blaspheming, you should cut off the tongue of the person, which is impossible. If you try cutting somebody's tongue, you will be in trouble. You may be arrested for violence. So therefore, the next step is one should leave the place. Okay, the next step is to defeat the fellow by argument. Yeah, the next step is to defeat the fellow by argument. But if you cannot, then the third step is you leave the place. You don't listen to those blasphemous words that are being uttered by those people. So there are three steps. The first step is to cut the tongue, which is impossible. The second step is to defeat by argument, by philosophy. And if you cannot, then you leave the place. You don't waste your time with them. But to be angry,
thank you, Maharaj. And also,
good. Yeah, to be angry is good because it means you're not happy hearing the Lord being blasphemed, hearing the devotees being blasphemed. That should be our mood. We shouldn't be satisfied. We shouldn't be happy hearing the Lord being blasphemed or the devotees being blasphemed or the process of bhakti being blasphemed. We should feel unhappy about it. But now the next step is, what do we do about it? Yeah, what is your question?
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. You also thought yesterday you were talking of Brahma when he first appeared, and he saw darkness all around him. What I want to know is, this darkness, was it real darkness or it was of darkness as a result of not having enough information about himself, or about the world?
Yeah, well, both is applicable. First, the universe is dark. When the universe was created, there's no light in it. So it is dark. It's mentioned like that in the Bhagavatam. The universe is dark. So that's one level. It was dark. Second level is that Brahma had no knowledge. So there's a second level of darkness. Tamas. So therefore, he experienced both situations. He was experiencing the darkness of the universe. He was also experiencing the darkness due to lack of knowledge. But somehow, due to his four-headed nature, superior intelligence, when he heard the word tapa, his great intelligence gave him the impression that he can get out of this situation by performing austerities. And so he took to severe austerities for thousands of celestial years. And at the end, Krishna spoke to him. Krishna revealed the knowledge of the scriptures. Krishna gave him empowerment. Krishna enlightened him from within the heart. So both is there.
You are grateful. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Any other comment or question? Otherwise, we call it a day. I don't want to keep you here. So, Sanika Prabhu, can we?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you very much for the class, and very, very rich, and so many references. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for learning and relearning the same thing over and over again.
Yes,
yes.
It's
a refresher. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. So next week
we'll continue.
Yeah. We'll see. I'll let you know. I may travel this week, but wherever I am, we'll try to connect.
Okay. We'll be in touch.
Okay.
Thank you. Dear student,